Today I'm going to beat Pokemon Emerald using only Ralts. This one's going to be pretty brutal. Ralts is essentially the Generation 3 version of Abra, but unlike Abra, it does not have a medium slow growth rate, it has a slow growth rate, and its base stats are not well distributed like Abra's are. Abra has no HP, attack, or defense, but it has really good special attack and speed. Ralts, on the other hand, has 28 HP, 40 speed, 25 attack and defense, 45 special attack, and 35 special defense. I think it only makes sense in this playthrough to use a modest nature because I'm not going to be using many physical moves. I want to lean into my highest stat, even though it's only 45. For abilities, Ralts has two, Synchronize or Trace. In this playthrough, I went with Synchronize because stealing the enemy's ability didn't seem like a useful thing to do. I am going to deeply reflect on this later on. For move pool, we start with Growl. That's it, just Growl. At level 6, we learn Confusion. Remember Calvin has a Poochyena? Yeah, the earliest portions of this game are going to be pretty slow. I have to find wild Pokemon and deplete 40 uses of Growl before I can use Struggle. There are no Cocoon Pokemon in this section of the game, so I need to stock potions to heal Ralts after every one of these battles. It takes 3 minutes to get access to Struggle, but now I have to use my attack stat, which right now is 8. Luckily, I am just barely able to knock out this level 2 Poochyena. Ralts survives the fight with 1 HP. I could have fought the rival right away, but instead I decided to grind to level 6 and learned Confusion before taking him on. This way, I can knock out his Mudkip using Confusion, which makes the battle so much easier. It's only 3 turns, and I gain all the experience from his starter, which gives Ralts roughly 1/3 of a level. The slow growth rate is awful, especially in the early game. Also in the late game. It's gonna get me there too because I'm using a first stage Pokemon. After the rival, there are no mandatory heals in the game, so I can keep my Growl PP depleted and then go up against wild Pokemon, defeating them with Confusion. This way I can train depleting Confusion's PP and then fight Calvin at a higher level using Struggle. With him cleared, I want to heal in the center to replenish Confusion PP so that I can fight more trainers. However, there is still a guy with a Poochyena inside the forest that I need to fight before I get to Rustboro City, so I decided to skip all the trainers on this route and see if I could beat the Poochyena at level 8. I'm using an Oranberry for this fight so that Ralts can heal mid-battle, and because of this I have an advantage over the Poochyena. Also, it's using a lot of accuracy drops with Sand Attack, but they aren't preventing Struggle from hitting too much, and Ralts ends up winning the battle a lot more confidently than I was expecting. I backtrack now and fight a bunch of trainers that I had skipped to this point in the game. The training in the Rustboro City gym is fairly fast for Ralts because it can use Confusion against Geodude. Here I'll mention that I have learned Double Team, but I can't use this move per my solo challenge rules, which you can find in the description of all my videos. Through level up, Ralts only gets normal and psychic type moves. Teleport at 16, Calm Mind at level 21, Psychic at 26, Imprison at 31, Future Sight at 36, Hypnosis at 41, although I don't like this move outside of Generation 1, and finally Dream Eater at level 46. Of course, I'm going to need coverage for dark types, and Ralts gets this through TM and HM. Thunderbolt, Return, Shadow Ball, Shockwave, Secret Power, and Thief all give it options to hit them throughout the game. Ralts also has an extensive move tutor set, although most of these cannot be learned in a regular Emerald playthrough. They're obtainable later into the game with BP from the Battle Frontier. So great moves which deal special damage like Ice Punch, Thunder Punch, and Fire Punch won't be available in this run. I went north of Rustboro City and fought one trainer getting to level 13, and I figured with Confusion and a decent special attack stat that maybe Roxanne would be possible at this level. Let's see if Ralts can pull it off. Geodude has low special defense, so Confusion is able to do enough damage to 2-shot, and she just sets up with Defense Curl doing no damage to Ralts. But the second Geodude attacks, and it does a ton of damage. Ralts eats its Oranberry, going back to green, but Nosepass's higher special defense means Confusion is doing roughly 1/5 to it. We also have to remember Roxanne has 2 potions as well as an Oranberry for her ace, so it's going to heal a lot, and Rock Tomb is just doing too much damage. Even though Ralts is slower than the Nosepass, it sees that Rock Tomb has enough damage to knock me out, so it's no longer viewing it as a speed control move. It goes for it to get the KO, and Ralts faints. I took the Blackout here to keep the experience from the Geodudes. I go north of the city, train up to 15, and then come back over the next damage rounding threshold. What I was hoping for by doing this is that I'm going to do a little bit more damage so that the Geodudes get healed by potions. Then she'll only have the Oranberry for the Nosepass. And this works out perfectly. I can burn through both of her potions on the Geodude before making it to the Nosepass, and I still have green health left over with an Oran Berry. Now because my health is higher, the Nosepass doesn't see the KO with Rock Tomb, so instead it's going for useless moves like Harden over and over again, while I spam Growl, lowering its physical attack. This way, when it chooses Tackle, it's not going to do much damage. I'll heal with my Oran Berry, and it's going to continue not choosing Rock Tomb. This gives Ralts tons of time, and I knock out her Nosepass, earning myself the first badge, which provides a useless 10% boost to my physical attack. I have to immediately backtrack to the Petalburg Woods, find myself a cocoon, and spam out all of the uses of my current moves. There's one quirk here for my solo challenge rules. I am going to have to use double team in this battle. If you consider this a loss in a solo challenge because I'm using this even though it's against a wild Pokemon and not affecting my progress, other than giving me access to struggle, well, then that's fine. There is still a path for Ralts to win. It can level all the way to 36, get Future Sight, which in Generation 3 does deal damage to dark types. By the way, its skipping type effectiveness was changed starting in Generation 5, but I'm getting way ahead of myself here. Future Sight's not going to be relevant for this solo challenge. There is also another way to get rid of Teleport in a more time-efficient manner. I can fight Fisherman Ivan, who has 3 Magikarp. Since Teleport doesn't allow me to escape the battle, I can simply spam it out while the Magikarp uses Splash and then struggle through his remaining team members. They don't give good experience, but they do allow me to get rid of Teleport quickly, so this fight definitely makes sense. Now, I can defeat the final mandatory Poochyena in the early game using Struggle. It's not hard. I'm level 17 by this point, and with him out of the way, I face the rival in Rushboro City. There's honestly not a team that Ralts is really going to struggle with that he has. I figured that maybe Mudkip would be the best since it has physical ground type moves that it can hit me with. However, in this case, its best physical move is Mud Slap, so it's choosing Water Gun anyway. And I was a bit surprised here. Mudkip actually did pretty well. It hit a massive critical hit Water Gun, which took Ralts down to 5 hit points. Luckily, I only needed one more turn to knock it out. On Dewford Island, I'm going to do a bunch of training. I fight the fisherman north of the city, and then I head into Granite Cave. I finish all the battles inside the gym. This gives me 19, and with a resistance and a type advantage, I think that Brawly should be fine. Machop is first. I am able to two-shot using Confusion and move on to the Metatite. It's annoying with Light Screen, but I don't really care since its only damage-dealing move is Focus Punch. I just take my time, eventually finish it off, and move on to the Makuhita. Confusion here doesn't do half, it goes for Bulk Up, but it only has Fighting-type moves. The Makuhita is only taking 1/3 because of Light Screen, and it also does a surprising amount of damage after the Bulk Up. However, once Light Screen fades, Confusion just does too much damage, even though Brawly has healing items. On Slateport Beach, I'm going to continue training because inside the museum I have to face 2 dark types. They are Carvana, and they know Bite, which is going to be super effective against Ralts. Unlike before, I'm not going to have to rely on Struggle for these battles. Instead, I can level to 21 on the beach, teach Calm Mind in the place of Double Team, and then inside of the museum I can pick up the TM for Thief, which deals special damage in Generation 3. I get lucky against the first Carvana. After 2 turns of setup with Calm Mind, I get a crit with Thief and knock it out in a single turn. The second battle comes immediately after without the ability to heal. This potentially could cause problems. The Zubat also has Leech Life and Astonish, plus it can confuse with Supersonic. I was most worried about the status condition, so after a single Calm Mind, I went for Confusion and knocked out the Zubat. Carvana now is taking less than half from Thief. Also, this move makes contact, so Rough Skin gets triggered every time I use it. But I roll better damage on the next turn and I knock it out, and it didn't go for Bite, instead choosing Focus Energy, so Ralts makes it through. North of Slateport City, I continue my training in the Trick House, grabbing myself 1 additional rare candy, which is going to be very important. Rival 2 leads with Lombre, a Pokemon I make fun of all the time. Maybe this is because typically in Emerald I have been playing fully evolved Pokemon. Lombre is not really relevant against them, but in this case, with a weak Psychic type Pokemon, it is doing decent damage with Astonish, which is, well, truly astonishing. Because of this, Ralts' ability to set up with Calm Mind is limited. I tried going for 2 and then knocking it out with Confusion, but I don't have enough damage. Because of this, I take 1 more hit when I could have gone for Calm Mind and been +3 for the Marsh Tomp. But even then, I wouldn't have had enough damage. It chooses Mudshot, and as I said before, this physical move is going to be strong against me. This time the Lombre goes for Nature Power Swift, which isn't dealing as much as Astonish, so I thought I was going to be able to move on to the Marsh Tomp with +4 from Calm Mind. But then it chooses Astonish, gets a critical hit, and Ralts faints. Still, in the very next fight, I was able to test the +4 strategy strategy against Marshtomp. I survive with orange health, Confusion one-shots Lombre, and then Marshtomp survives. Mudshot seals the deal, and I decided to blackout here. Blackout training against the rival is not particularly efficient for this fight. I have to walk quite far to get back to him, there are wild encounters that I can run into along the way, and defeating his Pokemon take time, plus I'm only able to knock out the Lombre. Instead, I'm going to fight some of the less efficient trainers that I have skipped up until now, as well as battling some of the wild Pokemon in order to level up to 26 so that Ralts can learn Psychic. This obviously makes the rival really easy. Calm Mind on the Lombre a little bit, I'm a higher level so I'm shrugging off its attacks, and then with +3 I just crush his team. Prior to Watson, I didn't fight every single trainer, but I fought a lot of them. With a first stage Pokemon, I don't think that skipping a lot of this experience makes sense, especially efficient trainers like Bug Maniac Angelo. He has Illumise and Volbeat. By the way, these bugs are hilarious as a duo within Pokemon Emerald solo challenges. I can't wait to talk about them. I've got that versus video in production right now, so it'll be coming to you sometime in the later stages of December. With the bugs defeated, Ralts is level 30, and I think that this is going to be enough for Watson. His lead is Voltorb, it's fast, it goes for self-destruct, and it one-shots Ralts. Okay, a quick loss, that was a critical hit. I don't know if I'm going to survive self-destruct even if it doesn't crit, but Watson doesn't always choose this move with Voltorb, plus I can just go for Psychic on turn 1 with no Calm Mind setup and knock it out in one hit. Then on the Electric that follows, I feel confident setting up Calm Mind. This thing loves spamming moves like Howl and Leer, and avoiding using Quick Attack. You can see exactly that play out here. It uses Howl and then follows it up with Shockwave even though I'm setting up Calm Mind. This Electric is terrible. Because of its inadequacies, Watson isn't able to do that much damage to Ralts and I have orange health left over for the remaining 2 Pokemon. Right now I speed tie the Magneton. It might be nice to level to 31 just to avoid this, but it doesn't matter anyway. I win the tie and I one-shot the Steel type with not very effective damage. Manectric is last, it might outspeed, but it just goes for Thunder Wave. With Synchronize, I paralyze it and recover the status condition with my Cherry Berry. Unimpeded, Ralts uses Psychic and the Manectric goes down. North of Mauville City, gets Secret Power. Loop back around to Slateport City, getting the Hidden Power TM, which for this run is going to be a Fire type move. I think I'll need it against Steven Stone. Another reason it's very useful at this stage of the game is for dark types. For example, Maxie's Mightyena. I'm going to set up Calm Mind here and then go for Hidden Power, but then Mightyena crits with Bite, doing massive damage. Although Ralts survives, but with 1 hit point. So the question is, can I one-shot all of his remaining Pokemon? The answer is no. Hidden Power does just over half to Mightyena, and then it gets me with a second Bite. If the Mightyena doesn't get a critical hit, then I have more time to set up with Calm Mind, and this battle is so much easier. I can tank 2 bites, get to +2, and then 2-shot the Mightyena, surviving on low red health. But from here, Psychic one-shots the Zubat, although I wasn't sure about the Camerupt. Luckily though, Psychic does have enough damage. Okay, time for Flannery. Her team provides 2 opportunities to set up, especially if you have Calm Mind, because I'm not scared of her Pokemon going for Sunny Day and Overheat. I will take progressively less and less damage from these moves, but on the other hand, the Numel does have Takedown and Magnitude, and Magnitude 7 does decent damage to Ralts. Still, it gives me enough time to get set up to +6, and from there, I'm pretty sure I'm gonna sweep. Flannery's Pokemon are all very slow. The Camerupt is the fastest one with 33 speed, and Ralts right now has 50. It is just flying by these Pokemon in more than one way, because now Psychic one-shots all of them. From here, I didn't battle more trainers. I just walked over to Petalburg City and into Norman's gym, fighting cool trainer Burke. And yeah, the Vigoroth knocks out Ralts. I wasn't expecting this. I guess it's fast and it has good physical damage, so maybe I should have worried about Slash and saved here. I didn't. I had to take a blackout and I went all the way back to Mauville City, wasting a ton of time. I should have taken this as an omen for what was about to come, but I didn't. Instead, I went back to Petalburg City to get my revenge against Burke. This time I did save, but Ralts won right away, so it wasn't necessary. Now let's see how Norman goes when Ralts is slower than 3 of his Pokemon. Spinda is first, and it is the only Pokemon on his team that Ralts outspeeds. By the way, I will mention for this video that this is the first video that I recorded with the new design for the team on the right-hand side of the screen. If you're watching my videos, you can always glance over here and look for the little blue or red boxes. If it's blue, it means I outspeed that Pokemon, and if it's red, it means that I'm going to move slower. Yellow is a speed tie, and they're fairly rare, but we have seen some before that in this video. Normally, Spinda is easy to set up against, but that isn't really the case here. It attacks with Facade, gets a critical hit, and does 3/4 damage. I thought I have to use Psychic here because it's going to see the KO, but with Psychic after one Calm Mind, I am not able to one-shot. Okay, I tried again. No, this isn't going to work. Even if Spinda doesn't attack on turn 1 and I get to +2, while I can one-shot it with Psychic, Vigoroth just comes out, uses Facade, takes me to red health, and then either the Linoon or the Slacking can finish Ralts. I went back into the gym to get experience from the trainers that I hadn't battled already. I fought this Zangoose. It goes for Swords Dance. Psychic can't two-shot. It uses Slash, gets a critical hit, and one-shots. So I had to reset. It was at this point that I realized I had made a major mistake. Being level 34 for these battles just doesn't make sense. Instead, I'm going to teleport back to Mauville City and do a bunch of training that I skipped earlier in the game. I started this around 1 hour and 1 minute on the clock, and it took me all the way to 1 hour, 4 minutes, and 24 seconds to get to level 36, where I accidentally learned Future Sight. I was looking at another monitor because this grinding was so mind-numbing. Unfortunately, that does mean I have to reset because I want Psychic. This takes me back to Norman, and I have to do the training again. Well, I tried to get my revenge on the Zangoose trainer, but she got me again. I reset. I tried to fight this trainer who has Swellow, and the battle did not go well. Ralts did win, but it was still really sketchy. I went back, tried Norman. Nope, not gonna work, so I am going to have to train. Because of this sloppiness, I have wasted about 5 minutes of time, and I'm gonna start my second try at the training at 1 hour and 6 minutes. What I am watching for this training is my speed stat. I want to have at least 69 speed, which is enough to speed tie Norman's fastest Pokemon. But getting to that speed threshold takes forever. I had to grind on wild Pokemon, level up to 44, and by this time, the clock is at 1 hour 30 minutes and 36 seconds. This training took so long that I have learned Hypnosis, so I can put the Spinda to sleep, then set up with Calm Mind and sweep Norman's team with Psychic. This battle is pretty easy now. While I complete the Norman battle, I want to talk about what I was thinking about during all of my training and preparation for this. Why, oh why, didn't I just go with a Ralts that had a speed boosting nature? It would have allowed me to beat Norman at a significantly lower level and save so much time. I was naive though, and hopeful that Emerald is a slow game and that Ralts wouldn't have problems from here. With Norman defeated, I teleport back to Mauville City, talk to Watson, explore New Mauville, and then get Thunderbolt, which I teach in the place of Hypnosis. Having an electric move is pretty helpful because it's good against Carvanha as well as Mightyena. And I didn't teach Shockwave previously because I could use Hidden Power during that section of the game. The rival now is pretty easy. Lombre is no longer a threat. I can just set up Calm Mind here once and then use Psychic to sweep his team. I pass all the way through Fort Tree City to Lily Cove City, on the way battling trainers that I think are good for experience. Cool Trainer Marcel is one of them. Manectric isn't an issue, but Shiftry kind of is. This Grass Dark type I don't have good coverage for. I should have left Hidden Power Fire instead of keeping Thief. Then I would be able to knock out this Pokemon more quickly. Luckily, it doesn't cause problems because its moveset is terrible. Pound, Harden, Growth, and Nature Power. The Lily Cove City rival is not an issue. I purchased myself Carbos in the department store to improve my speed as much as is possible. And then I head back to Fort Tree City to absolutely crush Winona. Calm Mind on Swablu. I could, or I could just knock it out with Thunderbolt, move on to the Tropius, avoiding Perish Song, then set up Calm Mind, and destroy the rest of her team with Thunderbolt. You will have noticed that in the department store I did not teach Substitute. This is going to make Ralts weaker against Maxie's team inside the Magma hideout. I'm faster than the Mightyena, but it can still use things like Swagger and Scary Face to mess me up for the rest of the battle. I go for +2 with Calm Mind, then he uses Swagger, and I crit with Thunderbolt, finishing the Mightyena in 1 turn. Crobat comes out, I'm confused, Ralts hits itself, and with 2 wing attacks, I'm not able to survive. This isn't that bad though. The Mightyena just misses Swagger in the next battle. I get set up to +2, and I'm faster than the Camerupt, and Psychic's doing enough damage. Prior to Tate and Liza, I trained Ralts a little bit, getting to level 54, but because of its slow growth rate, I didn't want to use rare candies here, and that makes me not particularly optimistic about this battle. Claydol and Xatu are their first Pokemon. I'm gonna try to set up Calm Mind to increase my damage. However, Earthquake is doing half to me on each turn. This is a case where Trace would have been very helpful. I could get Levitate from Claydol and then avoid Earthquake entirely, leaving the Claydol only with Ancient Power, which it doesn't get the same type attack bonus with. I kept Thief on my set so that I have super effective damage against their Psychic types, and I can use it in combination with Calm Mind, but its low base power is the problem here. I can't set up enough to make it do significant damage, so I take a reset without even defeating one of their Pokemon. I tried again, and no, this is just still not working. I need to train. Grinding at this point of the game takes forever, so I only went up to level 57, and then I decided that I need to use rare candies. With 13 of them, I can boost Ralts all the way to level 70 before trying Tate and Liza again. Turn 1 I go for Calm Mind, then with Thief I can 2-shot the Claydol, and I'm not doing enough damage to get them to use a Hyper Potion, which is key, because then the Claydol is gone and I'm no longer getting hit by Earthquakes. From there, Thunderbolt is able to one-shot the Xatu, as well as the Soul Rock. Lunatone takes multiple hits because it's setting up its own Calm Minds, but I don't really care. They use Hyper Potions, it's annoying, but eventually I knock it out. Ralts seems like it wouldn't be particularly good in the multi-battle at the Space Center. I don't even need to use Calm Mind though. This fight's just kind of easy. I think this comes down to the fact that Ralts is very over-leveled. Thunderbolt gives me good coverage against Archie's Pokemon, and I didn't even go for Calm Mind setup here, I just one-shot everything. And this continues against the final gym leader. I'm not even going to play an intro for him. One Calm Mind, I have a Person Berry so that I can shrug off confusion, and then I sweep using Thunderbolt with Psychic for the Whiscash. After using the rare candies, it's starting to feel like Ralts is gaining some momentum. Wally prior to the league is pretty easy as well. But what about Sydney? He is a Dark-type specialist, so I did some additional training in Victory Road just to level up a little bit more before going into the league. I also backtracked to the department store, learned Substitute in the place of Thief, and then I felt ready. There is an alternative moveset for this fight, which is rotating Psychic off, because we can pick up a Psychic TM in Victory Road, and then I can teach Hidden Power Fire in its place for this battle against Sydney. In order to do that though, I want to know that I can make it through every other Elite Four member without having to black out. Otherwise, I'm just going to have to come back and do this fight with Thunderbolt and Psychic anyway, because earning another Psychic TM from the game corner is going to take way too much time and planning. I got messed up during this fight because I was hit by Torment from the Shift Tree, and then because of that, I'm not able to make it by Sydney, but in the next battle, when I am not hit by Torment, I set up to +2, and then I sweep with Thunderbolt. This time Shift Tree just goes for double team, I 2-shot, and from there the remainder of the battle is pretty simple, because Ralts is outspeeding everything. For Phoebe, Substitute, then Calm Mind is essentially free against the Dusclops. For whatever reason, it loves using Curse or Confuse Ray, and it's not going for Shadow Punch even though it's super effective. I set up to +4, I didn't think I needed more than this, and I was right. I sweep with Thunderbolt and move on to Glacia, where Thunderbolt continues being amazing. Substitute, set up with Calm Mind, sweep her team members, move on to Drake. The strategy here is exactly the same. Substitute on the Shelgon, set up with Calm Mind, and then crush his team. Initially I was a bit worried about this because his Kingdra is a speed tie and I underspeed the Flygon as well as the Salamence, but it doesn't matter. I have a Substitute and that gets taken care of on the Flygon, then Salamence can't do that much damage, and after that, I'm not scared. Psychic one-shots the Altaria, there's only a Kingdra left, but its best move is Surf. And while I can't one-shot with +2, it just goes for Dragon Dance, he uses a full restore, and then I figure out that Psychic is the better move to use here, so I am able to one-hit. For Ralts, the Elite Four ended up being very easy. But what about the champion? Wallace leads with Wailord, and I want to prevent it from hitting a maximum damage Water Spout, so I use Thunderbolt, which takes it down to red health. This is good, because then I can use Calm Mind when he full restores on the next turn. However, Wailord doesn't choose Water Spout, it chooses Double Edge, obviously a physical move, and it does half to Ralts. That's not what I was hoping for. With +1, I'm gonna one-shot the Wailord on the next turn, and then he sends in Tentacruel. I tried setting up Substitute here, hoping it would go for Toxic, but it doesn't, instead choosing Sludge Bomb. I'm also slower than it, so I can't just go for Psychic, and as a result, Ralts loses. If I know the Wailord isn't going to go for Water Spout, then I can set up Calm Mind on turn 1. Also, Double Edge does less damage this time, so I can tank 2 of them. I get to +2, use Thunderbolt to knock out the Wailord, but now I'm on low health, and Sludge Bomb from Tentacruel just gets me. In the third fight, let's review speed stats. Ralts has 112, Tentacruel 118, Gyarados 113, Milotic 116. Being slower than Tentacruel means I can also get poisoned, which is unacceptable, and while I do make it further into the fight, fight if the Tentacruel doesn't attack. The Ludicolo and the Whiscash take 2 turns to knock out with +1, so I take too much poison damage and lose. I tried one more time, but Tentacruel got me, so I decided to black out and fight the League again. Defeating Drake here got me to level 76, close to level 77, so I saved first and then used 2 rare candies, going to level 78 and trying Wallace. But my speed is unfortunate. I am still slower than Tentacruel by 1 point. Remember when I said I hope that speed wasn't going to be a problem after beating Norman? Yeah, speed still is a problem. I needed to go for a speed boosting nature for this playthrough. It is obvious now. I got crushed by Wallace again, so I reset before using the rare candies, blacked out, and made my way through the Elite Four again. This time for Wallace, I am level 80, and I can now outspeed all of his Pokemon. Calm Mind turn 1, then one-shot the Wailord with Thunderbolt, one-shot Tentacruel with Psychic, and from here on out, it's pretty easy. Substitute on Ludicolo for defenses, set up Calm Mind, then use Thunderbolt and get frustrated because it's not a one-hit. Of course it's not a one-hit. The Ludicolo is always the most frustrating enemy Pokemon to go up against. At least it's not super effective with Giga Drain. I finish it, one-shot the Whiscash with Psychic, and then Thunderbolt easily manages the Gyarados and the Milotic. On the SS title, I pick up the leftovers, I explore the Safari Zone, picking up the final rare candy in the run, and then I take on Steven Stone. How does Ralts' speed look against his team? Well, I am slower than Skarmory, Claydol, and Metagross, and not by a small margin. These Pokemon all exist within a narrow band of speed ranges, from 136 to 140. Ralts right now has 122 speed, so if I wanted to move first against all of them, I would need 19 more speed points. One problem with underspeeding the Skarmory is that it can attack on turn 1 and potentially poison me with Toxic. Luckily it goes for Spikes while I set up my substitute. Now I was hoping that it would just spam Toxic after this point, letting me set up for free with Calm Mind, and it did do this for quite some time. I got to +3 and then I attacked with Thunderbolt, but Skarmory moves first, hits with Steel Wing, breaks my substitute, and then I one-shot, leaving me in a bad position for the remaining Pokemon. I have Psychic for the Cradily, but it does massive damage with Ancient Power, and I have to two-shot. He withdraws it, sends in Metagross, tanks a Psychic, and then outspeeds with Shadow Ball, knocking out Ralts. I need Hidden Power, so I went back and bought another TM for it. I have 3 rare candies left over because of how I did my training during the Elite Four, so I'll use those now to go to level 84, but this only gives Ralts 126 speed. I teach Hidden Power in the place of Thunderbolt, and this is because I also want to give up Psychic to have access to Attract. Okay, so let me summarize how Steven Stone is going at level 84 with this strategy. If the Skarmory moves first, since I'm holding the leftovers and I don't have rest, and it goes for Toxic, I have to reset right away. Otherwise, I'm able to set up Substitute, go for Attract, break the Skarmory's consistency, and then set up Calm Mind. This works pretty well, and I can get to +6 doing this. The problem then is that I don't have great damage elsewhere. I use Attract followed by Substitute on the Cradily to get my defense set back up, and then a two-shot using Hidden Power. Metagross comes in next, it breaks my Substitute, and Hidden Power Fire can one-shot. This is looking pretty promising. But Claydol follows, and I don't have good moves for it. Plus, it sets up Light Screen right away, cutting the damage of Hidden Power Fire. And then, with Earthquake, it's just doing too much. I kept trying, but Ralts can lose to the Cradily and not even make it to the Claydol. However, sometimes it just goes for Reflect instead of Light Screen, and I two-shot with Hidden Power Fire. This is the first time I've made it to the Aggron. Hidden Power Fire can one-shot with +6, but the same is not true for the Armaldo. It survives with a sliver of health, and then deletes Ralts with Ancient Power. I kept losing. Sometimes poison, sometimes it's quick, other times it takes a very extended time. I get all the way to +6, I make it through the Metagross, I'm feeling optimistic, and then the Claydol knocks me out. I sealed my fate before this run even started by not choosing the right nature. It seemed like Modest was going to be the best way to play things, increasing my damage, but what I really should have known is that with Calm Mind, damage wasn't going to be my problem. I needed speed. The only way to make up for things now is training on the Elite Four, which takes forever. I finished this last Steven Stone battle at 3 hours and 6 minutes, and then I grind up to level 93, taking the clock over 3 hours and 36 minutes. Finally, I am able to outspeed the Skarmory so that Toxic is no longer an issue. I'm also faster than the Metagross by 1 point now, but I am still slower than the Claydol. However, I think that this should be enough for this fight. If I really have to, I'll level up one more time and get 140 speed to tie the Claydol, but I didn't need to. I one-shot the Metagross, take care of the Claydol, losing my substitute, but at the higher level, I can one-shot the Aggron as well as the Armaldo. In my first playthrough with Ralts, I finished the game in 3 hours, 39 minutes, and 20 seconds. With 54 resets, 21 blackouts, at level 93 with a game time of 12 hours and 22 minutes. I played Ralts on August 29th, and then I procrastinated all the way until October 18th when I finally came back, optimized this Pokemon, talked to Ike the Killer extensively and got his thoughts as well, before I came back and did my second run. Obviously, for this one, we are going to be using a speed boosting nature. In this case, Timid to lower attack. Let's go through the follow-up playthrough and see how much of a difference the nature change makes. I'm gonna have to be quite detailed with this second playthrough because I ran into so many problems trying to rerun Ralts. I had maybe 15 restarts during the first hour of this playthrough on one tragic Saturday afternoon, and you all know I'm getting older, we're all getting older, I'm 33 now. I go to bed at like 9:30, 10 at the latest, but when I was playing Ralts, I had to stay up until 11 p.m. to finish this one. First of all, in the early game, we're using Trace, so whenever I run into a Poochyena, I get the ability Runaway, and I want to use this to escape the battle. I never want to fight Poochyena when I'm depleting Growl PP. This is because Poochyena is always going to attack, it doesn't yet know Howl, and even if it did, then it would do too much damage and force me to use additional potions. What I want to find is a level 2 Wurmple, and then spam out Growl on this Pokemon, since it can waste time using String Shot. After I get access to Struggle, I can fight Poochyena, but only if Ralts has full health. I want to run away from Poochyena if Ralts has around 12 or 10 hit points, because these little Poochyena just crit over and over again and forced me to restart the run. I don't want to blackout because then I'm going to have to deplete all of my PP again, and that takes roughly 2.5 minutes. So getting crit on low health is the end of a run. If I'm fighting a Wurmple, I always want to make sure I have at least 5 hit points left over, then I can run away from it and use a potion to heal. Once I have Confusion, I can just fight the rival's Mudkip without healing. It's not important. Also, I've got splits now for Emerald. This won't be in all Emerald videos from here on in because I have filmed some of the follow-up playthroughs before this Ralts run. I really procrastinated to finish this. I just did not want to play it. And I was right. It was just as painful as I expected. On Route 102, I want to knock out every Pokemon that I can with Confusion with 2 exceptions. I obviously can't take care of Poochyena, so I just run away from them. And then Ralts, I don't want to knock out because it takes too long with Confusion. It's just not PP efficient, and I want as much experience as I can get in this stage of the game. Luckily, Ralts are very rare, so I don't really have to worry about fighting them. Following all of these steps gets me to Calvin in the safest possible way, and I typically didn't have to restart when I was doing it this way. Whenever I was fighting Pokemon like Poochyena with low health, that's when I was getting restarts in this section of the game. Also, fighting level 4 Zigzagoon is sometimes really sketchy prior to level 6, so I was skipping those as well in this playthrough. I defeat the Aqua Grunt in Petalburg Forest, and then I go back to the center and heal. This way I can backtrack to all the trainers in the surrounding area that I skipped up until this point to keep Struggle. I just defeat them with Confusion and then move on with the playthrough. Fighting every trainer before Roxanne will get me to 15, provided I've fought a few extra Pokemon along the way. Ideally Zigzagoon and Taillow. They provide speed EVs, and I do need to prioritize these over everything else, even though I'm running a speed beneficial nature. I tried fighting Roxanne at level 14 a couple times when I had fought less wild Pokemon, and they went really badly. I would always lose to her. This is because Ralts under the damage rounding threshold isn't doing enough damage to get the Geodude to use potions. Even sometimes at this level she's not, as you can see on her second Geodude here, which puts me in a bad position against the Nose Pass. Also, Growl against it is required. I want to drop its attack and then use Confusion to knock it out once it's stuck using its bad moves and not choosing Rock Tomb. There is a much more efficient way to get rid of PP than finding cocoons in the forest, and I should use this for all Pokemon in the future. Just fight the Magikarp guy. He's got 3 Magikarps. Each one of them has 40 PP of Splash. I can simply deplete Growl, teleport teleport and double team here, and then knock out all the Magikarp with Confusion before they ever use Struggle. Then I backtrack just outside of Petalburg City and fight Speed EV Pokemon until I deplete Confusion's PP. Now I have Struggle for the Aqua Grunt, and speaking of Struggle, Brawly is actually not straightforward with Ralts. He can win. Look at this screenshot that Ike the Killer sent to me when he was helping me optimize this playthrough. I decided to play quite conservatively over the next section of the game, and I can see you winning all of this with less training. I fight everyone inside of the gym and take on Brawly at level 19. The way that this fight goes sour is if the Meditite uses Light Screen. In that case, I think it is beneficial to use Growl to buy time for Light Screen to fade before the Makuhita comes out. But in this case, I just crit the Makuhita. I really showed you the Ike the Killer screenshot just to emphasize how bad Brawly can be. I did restart to him during these playthroughs, but in this run, it looks like you would theorize a Psychic type just completely stomping fighting types. In Slateport City, I'm going to go to the green building on the left-hand side and talk to the move tutor for Swagger, teaching this in the place of Growl. I'm still going to teach Thief before the Museum Grunts, but now I can use Swagger for the Carvana. When you increase their attack stat by 2 stages, they almost one-shot themselves with self-inflicted damage. I can then use Thief to just quickly ping them down. I do need to get lucky here. I had to restart one playthrough because I lost so many times to these two just because Confusion wasn't working for me. But that's really a rare event. In most of my playthroughs, this just worked out first attempt. Okay, just north of the city, last time I trained on wild Pokemon to get level 26 in Psychic before Rival 2. And unknowingly, I was doing a really good thing for Ralts here, because the EV yields for speed are exceptional on this route. You can run into Zigzagoon, Wingull, Electrike, and Plusle and Minun. The only Pokemon that don't give speed EVs are Gulpin, Poochyena, and Oddish. I'm going to train a tiny bit here, but not very much, because I don't need level 26 to fight Rival 2. Instead, there's a risky and fast strategy. Set up Calm Mind 4 times on Lombre using an Oranberry to ensure that this always happens. Then Swagger for the Marshtomp. It hits itself once and then Confusion knocks it out. By the way, level 23 is required for these damage ranges to work out, and 4 setups with Calm Mind are also required. If you try to squeeze through at level 22 with 3 Calm Minds, everything is going to fall apart, and level 22 even with 4 Calm Minds won't one-shot the Lombre, and the Marshtomp just barely survives. Also, if his ace moves and hits you with Mudshot, you just instantly lose, so it has to hit itself in Confusion. That's the win condition. Still, enacting this strategy puts me 6 minutes and 47 seconds ahead of my former playthrough time. This is a big time save. I battled the Windstraits so that I can get the Macho Brace, which I will be using for Speed EV training. I also fought everyone surrounding Mauville City so that I could be level 30 or 31 to fight Watson. I overtrained here a little bit, but that's not the worst thing in the world since I'm going to need a very high level in order to pull off a Norman victory. I lost an hour and 5-minute attempt because I didn't quite level enough in this section of the game, and then Norman beat me like 15 times in a row until I decided to restart. The key numbers for Watson are 3 uses of Calm Mind on the Electrike. This way I can 2-shot the Magneton and 1-shot the Manectric. With a Cherry Berry, the Magneton's not going to try to do damage, and the Manectric typically tries to set up Howl on turn 1. I did drop some time here. I'm only 3 minutes and 12 seconds ahead now, but that's because I did extra training, which is going to pay off at the Norman split. From here until Norman, I fight every single trainer. I also don't use Repels in the grass because these Pokemon give special attack EVs, which I do want to collect with Ralts. I don't want them so badly that I'm going to equip the Macho Brace for this though. I need to save space for speed because I am going to be gaining inefficient EVs like HP, attack, special defense, and defense throughout this playthrough, and I want to ensure that I get to at least 160 in my speed EV. Maxi isn't really difficult. I can just set up with Calm Mind on the Mightyena as it sets up with Sand Attack and then use Shockwave. I just need to get a tiny bit of luck against the Camerupt. I am now slower than my first playthrough by 47 seconds, but again, I'm going to gain back all of this time on Norman. Flannery is quite literally trivial because of Nummel. And now let's talk about my goal level for Norman. I want to get to 39 or 40. 39 if I have done enough speed EV investment to get 70 speed. 69 is not nice enough. I leveled to 39 and then I used 1 rare candy here to go to 40 over the damage rounding threshold before battling Norman. This makes him easier, but it still doesn't make him free. If the Spinda just spams Facade, you lose, because you want to get to +6 so that you can one-shot all of his remaining Pokemon. If you do not one-shot his remaining Pokemon, they will attack and knock you out. Unless the Spinda is just terrible spamming Teeter Dance chance over and over again, even though I've copied own tempo with Trace. This is why it is the far superior ability for a solo challenge with Ralts, even though it prints a bunch of text in every single battle of the playthrough. Still, doing this planning and getting lucky here against Norman, I am able to beat him on my first attempt, and I now have a 28 minute and 54 second time lead. This is the time to use the Macho Brace. On the path to Fort Tree City, there are so many trainers with excellent Pokemon for speed EVs. Birdkeeper Chester, who has Tailo and Swellow, Bugcatcher Kent with Ninjask, wild Pokemon like Linoon, as well as Ninja Boy Takashi, who has another Ninjask. I tried to continue this training on my way to Lily Cove City because I'm going to get Substitute in the place of Hidden Power. For this playthrough, I only need Psychic and Thunderbolt as attacking moves in the mid-game. Unfortunately, this Manectric is really good and it causes me to have a reset because it's raining in this area and it's using Thunder. I got some random resets over the next section of the game, but I'm not going to cover all of them. Instead, I want to skip ahead to Tate and Liza. Really, the optional trainers that you're fighting up until this point are pretty straightforward for Ralts. Tate and Liza are a little bit trickier. I trained to level 52 and then used 12 rare candies going up to level 64 before fighting them. I'm going to reset this battle until Ralts traces Levitate from Claydol. He's got a 50% chance to do this, so it happens after only one reset. From there, the fight's really easy. Even though there are two opposing Pokemon, I can just set up Substitute, spam a bunch of Calm Minds, refreshing Substitute whenever I need to. I've got a Citrus Berry to heal health, and then from there, I just use Thunderbolt and Psychic to knock out all their Pokemon. It seems kind of sketchy, but it works right away. For the Elite Four, I want to Blackout until I level up Ralts a little bit more. I have 2 rare candies left over, and I'm going to pick up a third one in the Safari Zone. My goal level for Steven Stone is only 75. I got some resets on Wallace trying to beat him. He's kind of hard with Ralts. You need to get a little bit lucky here, and you also need to be level 73. Turn 1 Thunderbolt to reduce the damage from Water Spout if he goes for it. I also got Paralysis in my winning fight, which is very helpful. Then he uses a full restore and gives you time to set up. I should be going for Calm Mind instead of Substitute, by the way, because he's just going to break this right away. I can go for Thunderbolt to deplete his health, but if he goes for Water Spout, he can still break my Substitute, so that's why it was useless. I want to set up Calm Mind and then sweep his team. I can do this fairly easily, but I can't push it too far, because at some point, the Wailord is going to see that Double Edge is the better move and then knock out Ralts. +2 is what I ended up needing. I can squeeze in more turns of Calm Mind against the Ludicolo when he's trying to heal, and then crush the rest of his team. With the champion defeated, I am now 36 minutes and 48 seconds ahead of my former time, and I am on track to beat Steven Stone over an hour faster than I did last time. The strategy here is essentially the same. Substitute to block Toxic, Attract to give me time, and then Calm Mind to +6. Hidden Power for damage. The only Pokemon that can cause significant issues is the Claydol. That's why 75 with speed EVs was very important, so that I could get the outspeed with 143 speed. The way that Claydol can win is if it sets up a Light Screen on turn 1, reducing Hidden Power Fire's damage even more. Then it just attacks with Earthquake, breaks your Substitute, and consistently attacks after that, draining tons of health. Since it's genderless, I can't use Attract to mess it up, and usually this is a loss if it goes for Light Screen unless you get critical hits. I've skipped over some resets here. In my next fight, I do get the luck I need and I move on from the Claydol. I critical hit the following Aggron, and then Armaldo comes out. I wasn't actually sure what to do here. I should have gone for turn 1 Attract and reset Substitute, but I just attacked with Hidden Power, and I end up getting lucky winning anyways. This Ralts playthrough is a massive improvement over my first run. I am 81 minutes and 7 seconds faster than my first playthrough. You can see that the difference column in this splits display wasn't ever programmed to account for times that were faster than the previous run by more than an hour. It's just so rare that that happens. In my second playthrough with Ralts, I got a time of 2 hours, 18 minutes, and 13 seconds with 13 resets, 6 blackouts. It finished the game at level 75 with a game time of 8 hours and 27 minutes. As far as first playthrough results go, it didn't do very well. It's ranked in the Bruno tier just ahead of Nincada and Luvdisc. Unfortunately, even though its follow-up is so much better than its first run, it still gets a Bruno tier finish just behind Dustox. Because of the early game, this Pokemon is really not fun, but the late game is honestly not that bad. Once I got by Norman, I didn't have any more restarts. There were certainly moments that were frustrating where I took blackouts, but Ralts can still get a great time even if it has some messiness in that section of the game. And I guess I could have been more permissible with myself in the early game, but I wanted to get a great Norman split, and in this playthrough I think I did. As I draw things to a close here, I want to reflect on the fact that Ralts is like the Generation 3 version of Abra, and Abra in Generation 1 is extremely painful in the early game, having to beat Brock with struggle, and then it gets really good in the late game with moves like Psychic and an outrageous special attack stat. Ralts definitely feels like this in Pokemon Emerald, but I would say it's not as extreme. Its early game is easier than Abra's is in Generation 1, and its mid and late game aren't as dominant as Abra's are. In the end, what this run really comes down to are Generation 3 mechanics. Ralts needs a speed boosting nature, and it also needs the ability Trace. If you support me on Patreon or through YouTube memberships, thank you so much, it means the world to me. Now, if you've made it this far, you're incredible. I'll see you in my next video.